Howard Butterworth is a well-known North East artist and has been painting Scotland for over 40 years. One of his favourite places to paint is the River Dee. Although normally seen painting outside, today as part of the River Dee Trust education programme, he's going to talk to you about how he sometimes uses photos as a reference for his work.
Traditionally, I've liked to paint outside because when I started to paint outside and using photographs was not really the thing to do, because the old-fashioned film cameras used to distort the colour. I've got some photographs here which will enable me to show you the way that I've been using photographs for most of the time that I've been painting. But I've never really painted from photographs directly. It's always places that I know very well, particularly the colour. But you have a great advantage as an artist in that you don't need to use the photograph to paint it exactly as it is. So I'll give you an example now. That is the photograph of the Raup, and that is the painting that I did of the Raup. Can you see, first of all, I've shortened the house. I've also not included a particular car, and I've varied the people that they're there. The other thing that there is in the painting, I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but there is a buzzard which was wandering about but isn't in the photograph. Going to another photograph, this is a photograph I took of me having painted outside. The temperature was really low and the river was a dark bluey green. Can you see that the painting is exactly the same colours as the photograph? But you can exaggerate the colour if you want. The other thing that you can do, this is a photograph of the place that I know very well. That's where we used to live in Glenmick, looking to a sunset. Now, traditionally, you can't paint a sunset. The time that would be like that would be gone more or less immediately. But with a sunset, particularly these days, that pinky colour could be exaggerated. Particularly if you've got Photoshop on your computer. Here's another example of what you can do. Those are some very famous birch trees that were in the garden at my residence in Glenmick. However, if you were using this photograph to do the detail in the branches, you don't need to put the hen sheds in or the pine tree there. Another example, and a different thing, similar idea in a way. That's a photograph of Edinburgh. In Edinburgh. I've never painted a view of that particular church. But if I was doing it, you don't need to put the roadworks and car in. In fact, it will be better without it. Or the railing for that matter, which in fact is another point, because if you put a railing across in front of a picture, it stops you going into it. A mistake that a lot of amateurs make of putting a gate in front of the picture. Here's another one. That's a West Coast picture, photograph, of a very boring bit of West Coast. Again, I've not painted that. Now, if you were using this to paint, the main thing that you can do with it is get the skyline exactly correct and the shape of the inlets there. However, it's basically an empty stage that you can put whatever you want in it. Like Viking cruises do when they put a cruise ship in the fjords. You could have a boat in there or something, or possibly somebody fishing, which would make it more interesting. This is another photograph which shows another thing about using a photograph. So I will do a quick sketch to show you what is involved with painting or drawing this scene. So first of all, you get the hill, then you get the river, can you see that there is now a focus on a point there? Not in the centre, but in one of the points of this is a point of interest. So that is a way of doing it. But this photograph also has the clouds arranged going towards that point as well. So all these lines converging like that, those are the important parts. The trees, which disguise the exact effect of the lines. And in the distance, you can just about see the hills, but those can be exaggerated so that they look like that. So that now gives you an idea. And then with a few stones in at the front, that gives you an idea of the river coming down. So that's just a quick sketch of that particular painting or photograph that could be a painting. And you see that those are lines make better following the shape of those. So those lines can be broken up. And then the final thing you might see is the running water at the front of the picture. So that's part of my method of doing things, but I try to do that outside, and I would use a photograph for having specific details, like, for instance, the line exactly of that hill and where the tree trunks are and things like that. So that's about it, really. There's a very exciting competition coming up, and the winners will get their work displayed in the Butterworth Gallery. So we're looking for a piece of artwork in whichever medium you want to use, or even on a computer as a file. So The only thing is it should be the River Dee. And we're all getting quite excited to seeing it.